The cars and the stars of Pirelli GT4 America kick off their 2022 campaign here at picturesque Sonoma Raceway. As if the 12 turns and 2.5 miles of twisting tarmac isn't challenge enough, no fewer than 42 cars from many of the continent's top GT4 teams have answered the call for this, the 2022 season opener. Hello everyone, welcome to California Wine Country and Sonoma Raceway. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. Amanda Busick is in the pit lane, and so many storylines to talk about, Calvin. But before we get to it, taking a look here at the track, I must say it is with heavy hearts that we start this season without our friend Paul Terry, who passed away last December. A passionate competitor, began his career in TC cars, stepped up to Pirelli GT4 America back in 2020, where he was the Sprint Am season runner-up. And I must say, we do miss your infectious smile, Paul, and your hard-charging attitude. It's not quite the same being at the track without you.
Yeah, we miss you, mate, and wish you were here racing with us today. This wonderful circuit, our regards to the family and all of your friends. We'll miss you a lot. But getting back to today, what a monster field we have. As you said, over 40 cars spread across the various classes in this GT4 level of competition, and so many great new teams coming on board along with some of the established teams. The driver lineups are just absolutely stacked. They were that way last year. When you add in guys like we're going to see on the grid today, guys like Mardos, Matt Plum, Mike Skeen, Borcheller, Curran, Tielitz, Karkaski, Lars Kern. I mean, this is just one stacked field. When you get to the second half of this race, when all of the pros get in, watch out. And
standing among those cars down in the pit lane is our own Amanda Busick.
One of the cars I'm going to be looking at and following today is going to be that number 10 BMW of Fast Track Racing. Behind the wheel of that car right now is Tim Horrell. He is paraplegic, gentlemen. He is racing this car with the brake lever in his right hand and the ability to accelerate with his thumbs. His teammate was telling me that he started racing in 2015. So the idea that this gentleman is taking pole here today to kick off race number 1 in the Pirelli GT4 class, this one is going to be a memorable moment nonetheless.
Yeah, really cool story, teaming up with Rafa Matos, with whom he's worked in Trans Am, and as you said, paralyzed in a road accident actually back in 2011. A really cool story. Special dispensation. Normally you see different drivers start race 1 to race 2, but because of his disability, there was a request made, and the series was certainly happy to accept.
Yes, so we'll start both races, so that's the way to go. I think it's got the full support of the paddock, and he's got a great teammate in Rafa Matos, so it'll be wonderful to see him in our championship. But just a great effort, and I think they're going to spring some surprises this year with that combination and the team, of course, with Fast Track.
So many cool stories sprinkled throughout this field. Let's highlight this car, the 34 machine. Conquest Racing is the team. One new driver, Gavin Sanders. He'll be teaming up with Mackay Stevens. You'll recall Mackay drove with Colin Mullen last year, and even though they only ran a partial season, they ended up third in the championship. That team is really switched on, and Gavin was remarkably quick in qualifying. Yeah,
he really was, and he really doesn't have a ton of experience. He raced front-wheel drive Nissan Sentras up in Canada, and but when you look at the performance of this team, as you said, they didn't do a full season. They started off with a 4th and a podium, then had a couple of runner-up finishes, and then went on a tear. Mullen and Mackay Stevens did last year with 4 wins. So this Conquest Racing team puts together a great program, and looking at Sanders' performance in qualifying, looks like they got another good shoe aboard.
It does, indeed. And we look a little bit further back. Such a great field. This is a driver to keep an eye on. Paired with Stephen McAleer, who needs no introduction, but Eric Filgaris, new to the championship. He's been pounding the pavement for years, though, waiting for an opportunity like this one to show just how good he is.
Yeah, I've known him and his dad for a long, long time. Kept crossing paths, and he and his father worked incredibly hard to get these type of opportunities. He's already had a big GT4 win in North American competition this year, and great to see him in this championship. He's going to really spring some big surprises. He's got a lot of talent.
This car, if you've been with us all day, you already saw it racing in GT America, powered by AWS. Ross Schwest had a great drive. Ultimately, I do think there was a penalty handed post-race, but his pace was indisputable. This team normally would have 2 cars between the 2 championships. They've been having issues with the one, so they're pressing this car into duty for both. He and Aaron Povoleto were really quick when this team formed at the midpoint of last season, and they've gotten off to a nice start here as well.
They have, and they didn't put the results on the board reflecting their true potential last year. I really feel that, for one reason and another, a little bit of bad luck, a couple of technical issues, they're a team that can really be in the hunt for a championship this year. They've got that sort of speed.
This car here, Manny Franco, a veteran of Ferrari Challenge competition, and I know it's one of Amanda's favorite stories. This guy won the Powerball jackpot, biggest one ever at the time at least, and decided, I want to go racing. Well, he's done it, and now stepping up to Pirelli GT4 America for the first time, he'll have Josh Hurley as his co-driver from Livermore, California, so the Californian racing on home soil. Manny Franco from Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting combination. And, despite his limited experience, man, he's really raised some eyebrows in terms of his pace early going. So he's determined. He loves racing and obviously got a little bit lucky. He had a sense that he was going to win, supposedly, and he did it. And now he's using those funds to establish his racing career, and he's done a really good job. He's the real deal.
Just look at this field of cars, Calvin. 42 GT4 cars around a 2.5-mile course. This is going to get crowded.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild one, and there's going to be some fierce fighting. Your car there struggling to come to life. Running. But perfect conditions now. We had a lot of rain here on Thursday, had a little bit this morning, which affected some qualifying sessions and so forth. But right now, had a ton of racing so far today. This is the final race of the day, and the racetrack is rubbered in nicely. Should be good grip, so we shouldn't have quite as much tire degradation. Just to go back to the format here, 60-minute race, no tire change, but there's a mandatory driver change that has to happen between the 25 and 35-minute mark of this race. It's not going to be completed, but you've got to be on pit lane by the 35-minute.
Starting grid, and I think you'll forgive me with 42 cars. I'm not going to roll through all of them, but how about Dexter Racing? Starting on the outside in the front row, Ryan Dexter, great qualifying effort. Their first race with the Toyota. There's Ross Schwest and Manny Franco. Row number 3, Pro-Am and Silver. There's also an Am category thrown in the mix as well. Chris Wilson, Snow Brothers Racing, the name of the team now. It's effectively the capstone team he's been driving for, but a new co-driver, Cole Corallo, coming over from the BMW a year ago. They say there's a 40-year gap in age between the two of them. Cole started calling Chris Grandpa.
Well, I think with that age gap, that you could call him great-grandpa, I think, but I'll give Chris a break and we'll do that too.
Well, John Allen, who owns the team and was the co-driver last year, he's come up with a nickname for Cole, too. He calls him Crazy Cole. And Cole's actually driving in John's old fire suit. There's a strip of tape over John's name. It says Crazy Cole. Cole didn't know that until he was told yesterday. He'd already worn it 2 times at that point. So, anyway, a little bit of intra-team hijinks. Looking a little bit further back, Jason Bell. Keep an eye on that car. He and Andrew Davis have been a good pairing, and Bell was quick in GT America earlier today, as was Brian Putt, and they have 2 cars in that V-Sport Racing stable here this year. That's a first for them, contesting both Pirelli GT4 America and GT America, powered by AWS.
Yeah, just some really interesting driver combinations, new teams that have entered the championship for the first time, and some stunning drivers. So we've always said this is one of the most thrilling races of our weekends. It never seems to disappoint, and I expect this year to be even better than last.
Plenty of talent even as we get towards the back of this field. Rob Walker from Auto Technic, Tom Capizzi, pair of teammates. Tom Capizzi and John Capestro do bets. Very surprising to see them so far down the order. Austin Smith, this could be one to keep an eye on, starting 33rd. But he was really good in TC competition yesterday, and he's got a good teammate to lean on.
Yeah, he really went on a tear, sort of like late summer last year, had a bundle of wins. I think he had 4 wins or something, and looked like a threat for the championship at one point. But he moves up a class to GT4, and that's a wonderful thing. We just come off the TC races this afternoon and talked about the ladder system there, but then when you get to those upper TCX or TC classes, this is the next step up to this GT4 machinery in terms of budget and performance.
And that teammate is Zach Anderson, the 2020 AM champion in Pirelli GT4 America Sprint X. You'll remember he teamed up with Sean Gibbons for that title for NOLA Sport. They won 8 races, 13 podiums that year. Basically sat out last year, did Zach. Didn't have the opportunities, did some things at the club level, did some testing, but got this chance to work with Austin Smith. And those two, if they don't win a race by the end of the year, I will be very surprised.
Yeah, they both have really strong pace. Zach was really impressive in 2020. Teaming with Sean there to that championship, and such a shame that just through them is the business side of the sport, right? Sometimes it will happen, but he didn't get the opportunity to run last year on a regular basis, but he's got plenty of pace.
Look at this field. So many manufacturers represented. Everything from Toyota to Aston Martin and anything in between that you could imagine. The brand new Porsche Cayman, newly homologated to GT4 spec. We saw it as an invitational because it wasn't fully homologated in the GT America season opener in St. Pete, but that homologation process is complete. It ran in GT4 European Series competition at Imola a couple of weeks ago, and now makes its North American debut in SRO competition, at least. It has run in IMSA, but it will be one of the cars to keep an eye on. It's been really, really strong.
Really strong, and a lot of the top teams are utilizing that platform, so expect that to showcase its performance here today and certainly for the championship season.
And here we go, an impressive front row of cars with Sanders starting on pole in his debut in the championship, and the young man from Nebraska, Ryan Dexter, in the Supra will start alongside in row number 1. A full 21 rows of GT4 cars about to be turned loose. Mike Stillwagon, the safety car driver, about to head down the pit lane. And now Gavin Sanders has this field under his control, coming through the hairpin for the final time before the drop of the green flag on the 2022 season. Here comes the field getting closer to the VP acceleration zone. There'll be some cones marking the spot during which, in this section of the track, this zone, that he can accelerate away, and he does. He punches it. Not a great start from Dexter. The field fanning out behind him. Good start from the rookie Sanders, but here comes Fulgaris on the charge from third on the grid.
Oh, and that was really tight there as they went up through turn 1. A bit of a schmozzle further back in the pack as well. Fulgaris running the cushion around the outside. Looks like he's going to get that Porsche up to second. Look at that massive field there trying to get through turn 1 and 2.
Looked like it was Adam Adelson in the Premier Racing Porsche that went off track. Fulgaris got shoved a bit wide, perhaps, by Dexter. He has to settle back in at the top of the hill in turn 3 and 3A.
Yeah, wise move there. Just got out wide. Doesn't have the tire temperature just yet. New Pirelli tire compound, a little bit harder, so it's going to take a few laps here to get into the sweet spot here.
No tire warmers in Pirelli GT4 America, so these first few laps will be treacherous, especially as we've entered the late portion of the day. Temperatures starting to come down here in Sonoma.
There's a little bit of argy-bargy early. Obviously, the Triple 8 machine has had some contact.
Sean Whalen, Zalus Motorsports, the team, and that's a tire rub. Dislodged body work on that Aston Martin. To take a very close look at that. Fulgaris now, after that great start, he's dropped back, and Ross West, he is on fine form at the moment. Had a great run in GT America earlier today. He's heaping the pressure on. Oh, and problems here for the Cameron Racing car. Chris Cognazzi in the car he shares with Guy Cosmo.
Yeah, big impact somewhere. Left corner heavily damaged, as you can see, as it's crabbing away.
This is Sean Whalen, the tire rub we talked about.
Steve Cameron, and this is their home track. They know this track like the back of their hand, so big disappointment there for Cagnazzi and Guy Cosmo, his co-driver. Ray Newell down to the inside in the Harder Racing Aston Martin number 25 machine there.
Contact as well. Newell was able to make the pass stick.
James Walker Jr. in the Bimmer World number 82. New teammate for this year. Great to see Devin Jones back in competition. Had a big accident back in 2020. So a long road to recovery. Great to see him back.
Full course yellow. I'm not sure these guys know it yet. The fight continues. Now they back off the pace. We do have a few stranded cars, it would appear, around the racetrack. This is one of them. GMG, Kyle Washington, who's a busy guy this weekend. He's racing in 3 different series. The single-make Porsche series that's here, in addition to GT America, and here in Pirelli GT4 America as well.
So a little bit of debris on the racetrack there where someone's been off and on. Cagnazzi, I wonder if he was involved with Washington. I'm not sure where that exactly occurred.
Replay of the start, and it looked like Dexter just didn't quite get it right. So Garris was there quick to take advantage.
Yeah, fought him all the way, and then they get in a big battle going up towards the hill in turn 3. There's looking a little bit deeper in the pack. This is where that moment is for Filgueras. He has to give it up, gets out a little bit wide right here, a little bit sideways there, almost lost the rear end. What happens when you're chasing that throttle with a lot of steering input and the tire temperature isn't quite there.
Looking at timing and scoring, a few drivers that had a great first lap. Brian Putt up 8 spots to 14th and 8th in Pro-Am on that first lap. Sam Owen now in 2nd in Am, but up 7 spots overall on that first lap. Scott Noble, another NOLA Sport car, up 8 spots at the start here to move to 11th in Pro-Am. A couple others, Thomas Sargent and Mark Siegel, also with big starts to their race. While we go under full course yellow, though, let's check in the pits with Amanda.
Well, one of the things I'm going to run down and see what's also going on, I just saw the AM Championship car last year of Smooge Racing, that 68 car coming to the pit. Curious of what's happening there, but I just wanted to go back. You said that one of the stories that I like is Manny Franco, and what I enjoy about Manny's story in a different series that I've covered, he jumped on the scene at Road America last year and completely swept it. We moved on to a couple other races and had the same performance, but he's kind of a quiet guy. He keeps to himself, but he has this insatiable desire to improve. I talked to him after qualifying today, and he wasn't too happy with what he had saw out of himself. But what I noticed at a race that he was at recently, while he is fast, he is aggressive and great in his braking strategy. I expect to see that style of Manny's driving over here as well.
Right now running 7th, but 5th in the silver category. Sanders out in front. It's silver 1, 2, and 3. Then we get to the top Pro-Am car, Ross Schwest right now for Schwest Povolato Racing. And then the great story of Tim Horrell from Parkland, Florida, driving with the hand controls. He'll be turning that car over to former IndyCar Rookie of the Year and Trans Am standout, in fact, reigning TA2 champion, Rafa Matos.
Yeah, and Rafa was one of those guys that was on the fast track to being an IndyCar star, right? Won all of the junior formula right from the get-go. Star Mazda, Atlantics, Indy Lights, you name it. Got the opportunity with Andretti Green at one point running their prototype car, Rookie of the Year, and then he just kind of disappeared off the scene for a while, found his feet again in Trans Am, but now even at his age, he's not a youngster anymore, but sort of middle-aged, but just top draw, really quick. I always loved him. I thought he was a great personality, so great to see him in our paddock amongst with a bunch of other guys making their debuts here this weekend.
That's right. So
there's Cagnazzi's car on the approach to turn 6, and we saw Washington's car further down off of turn 6. I'm not sure if they were involved in the same incident or not.
This is another car that's been in the wars. This is the G56 GT4 iteration of the Ginetta. And Ben Anderson and Matt Rivard sharing the driving duties. Ben started the race. Dexter Racing, the little family-run team out of Nebraska, have a lot of experience running Ginettas, actually, in Trans Am. And then over here in Pirelli GT4 America. And you'll remember they showed up out of nowhere at Portland. And the brothers Ryan and Warren Dexter were immediately really quick, and that's carried over. Now, they ran the Aston much of last year.
Right.
They've got the Supra for Ryan Dexter, and he's got a different co-driver this season, actually. But nevertheless, it's really neat to see what this little team from Nebraska can do.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. They're a small team, but they make it happen, and very impressive. And they got the new Ginetta, so it's exciting to see how that will fare in GT4 competition. It's a shame to see the 68 car out early on the back of such a great year, winning the AM Championship last year. Jez Bray and Kevin Conway, run by Smooge Racing, team led by Tony Ave.
They were outstanding. They won at least one race in every single weekend of the season last year. No finish in class worse than 4th all season long, but not a great start to the year. And Amanda has more on their story.
Well, this is not what you want to see Kevin Conway getting out of their GR Supra. They will not contest in the race today. I believe there was a potential contact or something on track with the Janetta is what John Jesbray was telling me. But as they go up to this silver class and want to contend for a championship, clearly in this rank as well, just an extreme disappointment from the team to kick off this season.
You can see Kevin taking a look in the wheel well, definitely contact, and looks like maybe some suspension damage as a result. I think a lot of people know him from his NASCAR days, was a Cup Series Rookie of the Year. His dad, Sam, was actually the team manager for Darrell Waltrip Motorsports for a time, so the racing is in the family. Since making the transition to sports cars in the last few years, he's carved out a little niche for himself.
He has a great mentor for young John last year. It was super impressive. I mean, Jesbray was really a revelation of our 2021 season in GT4. And, you know, great big personality, Kevin. And I think that'll bring John out of his shell. He's kind of a little bit more shy at this stage of his life and career. But I think he's just going to build with that confidence and embrace being the spotlight put on him a little bit. It's not always comfortable when you're a youngster and having that thrown at you all of a sudden.
He does seem mature beyond his years, though, John Jesbray, and a lot of that comes down to the coaching and guidance that Kevin Conway has provided to the Jesbray family as they've gone racing. John just starting his collegiate career academically, attending Grand Canyon State is the school he's attending. Entrepreneurial studies, he says, is the topic. But we saw what a quick study he was last year in the race car.
He'll be able to write his own contracts, right, when he's
might be right.
getting the big deals.
So Charlie Poston's being highlighted here. He'll be driving with James Clay. Charlie and James have driven together quite a bit in NOS competition. That's at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. They were teammates a year ago and have done some other things together over there in GT4 cars. Now carrying that relationship over.
This deal came together very late because James was intending to run with Ari Balo in GT3 competition, but the sister car, Chandler Hull, Bill Aublin were testing at VIR. Big incident there, car was destroyed, and James had to make a big decision. How do I keep this program alive? Bill Aublin making the move over to Bimmer World the last couple of years and then making the move up to GT3 with Chandler. That was where the focus was, even though they were running the second car. So James elected to give up his chassis that arrived in the US just a couple of weeks ago. And then he went back to Charlie and they put this GT4 program together at the last second. So I'm not sure it's committed for the year. I think there's still the belief, like August time when they get their second car, that James may in fact make his GT3 debut a little bit later in the season.
We'll keep an eye out for that development. The interesting news is that all 20 of the GT3 cars that started the GT World Challenge race just before this one are committed for the full season, and there are some whispers that a few others may yet get involved. The cleanup, though, continuing here. This is interesting from a strategy perspective, Calvin, because this is eating into the drive time of driver one in these lineups.
Yeah, and typically on day one, when you have the AM starting, you're going to pit on the earlier side. You want the speed of your pro getting in as early as possible and take advantage of that. The downside is for the AM is like, man, we've been sitting behind the safety car and didn't get a lot of running. So it depends on your agenda. If you're all out for performance, getting the best result today, you'll still do that. If you've got a program where you're just trying to develop a driver, you may like to keep them out a little bit further and deeper into the race.
I think every number two driver, the drivers that will go second, is thrilled because this means on a high tire degradation track, they're going to have much fresher Pirellis than they would have had otherwise. No tire changes in this series.
Yeah, I agree with you. But one surprising thing, I mean, we saw a tire deg drop off of about 4 seconds on the practice day here, but I think as this track has rubbered in, I think we're looking about 1.5 to 2 seconds with the GT World Challenge America GT3 machinery a bit earlier in the day. So I don't think it's as much as everyone was worried about 24, 36 hours ago.
Back down to the pits and Amanda.
Standing by with Kenton Cook, kicking off another season alongside Brian Putt in this GT4 class. And Kenton, when you think of, we have temperatures that are going down, we have the tire degradation here at this track, what kind of strategy can you relay over to Brian as we get close to going back to this restart?
Go fast, get the tires up to temp, and avoid everyone else and pass everyone. So that was kind of like my goal, and then bring it into me with all 4 tires on it, and not in a steaming pile. So I think if he does all those things, I think we might have a good shot. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, so far everything's been working pretty good. Aston's pretty strong here. We'll see how it is on the long run. The Porsche seems really good on the long run, and so does the Supra. So, but I think honestly everyone's going to be a fight here, because we may have to make it through a couple cars here once I get in. But I just want to thank Motorsports Cafe for giving me some help this year amongst the B Sport guys, and it's been a good experience to be over here, and also racing in the GT4 Europe. It's just been a whole different world. But yeah, it's been good times, and hopefully we can get in and do well.
When I see you and Brian back in the paddock, you're always smiling, or it seems like there's a great relationship between you two. Why does the pairing work so well? We've
been working together for the last 6 years now, so I think just one, camaraderie is one, but he's a super loyal guy, and when it comes to him learning and me learning how to teach him, he's been very open to a lot of different criticisms, obviously. And as 6 years, you grow so much together, and if something were to change, obviously there's a lot that goes to the side when you maybe if you were to switch to someone else. But honestly, it's been a blast working with him. He's been one of the people that I've been able to look up to, honestly, in many ways. But yeah, it's been good to have him as a guy that I've been working with for, again, like I said, for a while now, and starting the team with him. He put that trust in us and Danny and I and the rest of the crew here. Dan Nowacki, he wanted me to give him a shout out. But yeah, that's one of those things that when you have good people on board, good people, and someone who supports the drive to do that, you get something pretty good. And so far with B Sport, we've got something pretty solid. So we'll go to the front.
Good luck this season.
Thank you.
That is a young driver on the rise. His performance in customer Aston Martins over the last few years got the manufacturer's attention. They gave him a test, the World Endurance Championship Young Driver Test. He's racing, as he alluded to, in GT4 European Series for the, and bear with me, Hella Padgett Racing 1, I think it's called, team in an Aston, as you would expect. And I was talking to him about his experience at Imola a few weeks ago at the season opener, and they had the pace. They were quick. They just didn't have much luck. Had some contact and some other things that didn't go their way in the races. But really cool to see a young American driver who's had to fight for it. He was on that Mazda ladder for a time, won his class at the 24 Hours of Daytona, and then the opportunities petered out. But he has carved out something for himself with Brian Putt, with B Sport Racing, and Aston Martin, credit to him. They took notice of his ability.
Yeah, great talent, and at one stage, as you said, looked like he might have slipped through the net a little bit. But I think the one thing that's great about the sport right now is that these AM drivers, the gentleman drivers, have really embraced the thought of having a coach. And then when you get to the Sprint X format, that coach can then sit beside them, so they got real data in the same car on a racing weekend versus just sitting in the stand. So it's allowed a lot of these drivers to get integrated with other teams. Great potential, and deals are coming together. So that's why you see so many of these guys like Andrew Davis and the likes, who just can really continue their career for many, many years, because they do such a solid job. They're still super fast behind the wheel, and they're just such a great sounding board. And the mentorship that they can give to these drivers who are relatively new to our game is just tremendous.
And they had that breakthrough win last year at VIR, winning overall. Brian Putt got to finish that one off, which was fitting in so many respects. Ultimately finished second in the championship, but it's worth noting the reigning championship tandem in Pro-Am has been broken up. For so many years, it was Jason Hart and Matt Travis, and they were always there at the front challenging for the championship. They finally got it. Jason Hart and Noah Sport, they're back, but Scott Noble is the new teammate, and they've been quick. They're definitely going to be there, but talking to Brian and Kenton, they feel like the start of the season, when they are an established tandem, they have the chemistry, they need to make hay now, because the other tandems that are new together are going to start to figure it out.
Yeah, totally agree. When you have that experience, you're coming back again, And you know, it's cut and paste in terms of the chemistry of the group, and the car's the same. They should be really strong. Eric Peterson is a wonderful engineer in many different classes and series around North America. So to have him on board. Danny, as Kenton alluded to, is his wife, and she's the team manager, does a great job of keeping everything together. So they're in great position, but the competition certainly got tougher at the same time.
Oh, it has, and that's true up and down this field. Again, 42 cars took the green flag and were about to turn them loose. Less a couple because of the incident there early on in this race. But now just about 6 minutes until the pit window will open. And we'll see our first green flag running in quite some time. Gavin Sanders, the rookie, started on pole. He leads, and he's got Ryan Dexter in the Supra from Dexter Racing right behind. Then the youngster, the hard charger, Eric Filgaris, Ross Schwest, and Tim Horrell. Here comes the field looking for the green flag. They enter the acceleration zone, and we're back racing at Sonoma. Pretty good start, but this time Dexter right there, and he leaves the door open. Dexter takes a lunge.
Yeah, Sanders there just took that wide line, and Dexter thought about filling the slot there. Couldn't quite make it stick. He scrambled over the hill there. That camera angle just does not do that crest of the hill justice in terms of how big that steep that hill is, and then the climb up to turn 3. Highest point on the racetrack, right in front of you, screen right, turn 3.
Good battles throughout this field, side by side through 3 and 3A. This is the run into 4. That's Lau in the Mustang, trying to hold off Lucas.
They'd had a great start in that Mustang. They gained 12 positions on the initial start, but just lost 2 on this restart, but still a net gain of 10 from their grid position.
ARG Rotec Racing team. We saw them last year in GT America with Rob Holland in a Mustang.
Filgaris up to second. He's got around Dexter on this opening lap.
He was a big charger on the initial start to the race too, so not a surprise to see him quickly on the attack. The native of Cocoa Beach, Florida. He's got some experience in this Cayman already this season, putting it to good use.
He and Mcelroy have seen the checkered flag first already this year, so trying to build on that momentum. Things settling in here. Gray Newell up on the wheel early. Good move there.
He's fighting with one of the new teams to the championship. Really cool to have Absolute Racing, a team with a ton of pedigree in the Asia-Pacific region. They've run at Le Mans. They're coming over. They've started a West Coast North American base to do some more North American racing. And they've got Anderson Tanoto from Jakarta, Indonesia.
Big hit. Toward the left front, right out of that BMW.
It's Tim Horrell.
Wow.
Great run going. It is. I suspect there's causation there, those two cars. For now, we stay green, and knowing that, Eric Filgaris is on the attack.
Yeah, he's going to go on the attack. He wants to try and get the lead here, because by the time they do the cleanup on this one, we're probably going to be into the pit window. The nice thing with them with strategy, I mean, Filgaris has got great pace, and he's going to turn over Stephen Mcelroy. Yeah. So both of those drivers running silver, so the silver lineups equally matched a lot more than some of the Pro-Am lineups.
Silver class cars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the leaderboard. It is Tanoto I was talking about from Indonesia. He's teamed up with the Porsche expert Lars Kern. That's a really neat pairing. Doesn't sound like it's for the full season, but glad to have him here this weekend.
Yeah, Lars Kern, Porsche production factory driver. He has the record at the ring, doesn't he, for the fastest lap of the production car?
He does. Set that in 2018 with the Porsche 911 GT2 RS MR. And he's got a lot of track records. That's something Porsche likes to do. They'll trot him out to set some of these records. He's held them at CTMP and at Road Atlanta, among other places. Full course yellow. Not a surprise.
No. And they have the option of moving this pit stop window a little bit. So if this cleanup continues, they'll probably elect to wait to do the pit window opening. It'll still be 10 minutes, but they may shift it a little bit.
They're on to something there. Let's look at a replay. Does this shed any light?
It's pretty low because the car's up ahead. There were 3 into 2, didn't quite work. It's a shame that we're not going to see that car may finish the race or even get to see Rafa Manos in action today. You can see that left front corner has disappeared over to the other side of the racetrack.
And that is too bad. Fast track racing came loaded for bear here in 2022. This is effectively the same classic BMW team from a year ago. The dealership was sold at the end of last year. So the racing arm has always been fast track racing. And the new owners certainly supportive of motorsports. I'm talking to Toby Grahovic, but they're trying to brand it as fast track racing a little bit more than they have in the past. And they're very busy in both TC America as well as here in GT4 America.
Yeah, and they're going to be busy tonight. Hopefully it's not too much chassis damage to that car. When you rip the corner off like that, the pickup points and everything could be compromised or gone. So a lot of work. I was just looking at the start time for tomorrow. Sprint X-rays at 11:25.
That is the car, and again, the young man racing with hand controls after a road car accident over a decade ago. Left him with a disability. As you can see, Calvin, you anticipated this one. The pit window will be delayed so that it doesn't happen under the safety car. So they'll go back to green, they'll do their flying lap, and then I think it should be the next time around that the pits will open.
Yep. So there'll be basically one green flag, and then they'll do it. So they'll get this cleaned up, then look at the clock. Good green flag racing, I would imagine that pit stop window will open at that time. And again, during that pit stop, it's a 92-second minimum stop time. You have a 1-second joker that you can use each weekend. Not both days, but you can be up to 1 second underneath that minimum time. And it's you can do tire pressure adjustments, no tire changes. You can do adjustments, and the driver change is the key. Plenty of time, unless something goes dramatically wrong, to get that done. It's all about the efficiency of the timing of releasing the car out of the pit box.
Very true, but you can't lollygag either. We've seen pit stops dictate races in this series over the past few years since they adopted this format. Got more from the pits on our leader with Amanda.
Well, and that leader, they really jumped on the scene last year and kind of made they weren't ever going to be able to contend in the championship for silver last year, but they definitely gave that Murillo team a run for their money, especially there at the end. But I was catching up with John Farrow. New to the roster is Gavin Sanders, and he actually hosted a shootout at NOLA in December. And he said this Canadian of Gavin Sanders really stood out to him, and it was no question in his mind that he was going to take this seat here this season.
John Farrow, who Amanda referenced, it's neat. He's someone who's passionate about motorsports and passionate about giving young drivers opportunities, those that deserve it. That's what the whole mindset of that shootout is about. He did this last year too. They've got programs in a couple different championships, but you know, it does take those with the means to support some of these drivers that wouldn't get a chance otherwise, and John has certainly answered the bell in that capacity.
Yeah, he really has, and it's a wonderful opportunity for these young drivers. And speaking to Mackay, he said, you know, hats off to the team for giving another young driver the opportunity. So I'm just grateful to be back myself. So Colin Mullen, though, I hope he finds his feet, because he's an amazing young talent and very respectful young man, very polished. And I'm not sure what racing program he has for this year, but great to see.
Red flag has been displayed, so the cleanup will necessitate a lengthy delay, and this may allow a little time to remain on the clock. We'll see what race control does with that, but we are in the final race of the day here today at Sonoma Raceway. And so while normally there's not much flexibility to stop the clock or something like that in the schedule, where we sit at the moment might allow that to be a possibility. We'll see if that's what they elect to do. That is an unfortunate sight. You know, we talked about this during the GT America race, Calvin, for Ross West and Aaron Povolato. They have to use the same chassis in both races, both GT America and GT4 America, and this is what we said could be the problem. If you have a problem in one of the races, it affects you in both championships, because they're having those niggling issues with the sister car.
Yeah, and tough to tell how much damage there is on the 50 machine. Certainly that looked like the 10 car got the brunt of that incident. But yeah, I mean, it's still a scramble, right? I mean, the key is, do you have the parts? Does the manufacturer have the parts on site? Is there another team can loan you the parts? But then if there's chassis damage, when you're scrambling to get to a body shop or something tonight, that's a whole different world.
And normally, if it's just the parts, it's not usually a big deal. These manufacturers and their customer racing arms are so good about providing trackside support, but it's just another reminder of the times we live in. There's no guarantee of parts being available. All the supply chain issues that you hear people talk about, that's affected motorsports in a really big way. Down once again to Amanda in the pits.
Well, about 30 seconds ago, Mackay Stevens did have his helmet on ready to get in this race car, but we were talking about John Farrow and the opportunity and this car out here. You guys jumped on the scene last year and just made all of us start talking about what you guys were up to. When you look at the opportunity that John has extended your way, what has it meant to you?
It's meant everything and then some. I think it certainly embodies and represents what people can do with a chance to not only follow their heart but follow their soul, and really that's what myself and Gavin are being gifted, and it's a gift that one you really can't put a price to. So we only hope to return his gesture in as many ways as possible.
Gavin's at the top of the pack right now. When you look forward throughout the season, what's your outlook on what's going to happen?
To do our best every time we get out there. We're going to learn in every moment, and this team is more unified than ever, and we'll continue to step through the challenges, as a unit. So we're exceptionally grateful to be with one another and just trying to put one foot in front of the other.
Have a good race.
That's another one when you talk about talent that nearly slipped through the cracks. We were talking about that with Kitten Cook earlier. Mackay Stevens was a very good karter, very good in open wheel racing, won the Team USA scholarship from Jeremy Shaw, went over and raced in the Formula Ford Festival and the Walter Hayes Trophy. Did a little bit of open wheel racing after that, and then had this dry spell from 2017 to 2020. Didn't get to this chance last year, and he and Colin Mullen popped up at Road America, 4th and a 3rd in their first 2 races. From there on, they didn't finish worse than second
yeah.
and closed the season with 4 straight wins in the silver class.
Yeah, no, it's truly remarkable. They were the team to beat, so certainly elevated the game, and seems like young Gavin is up to the task in terms of filling some big shoes there with Colin Mullen. So team kind of led by Eric Bachelard, wonderful, successful career himself, great team owner in IndyCar ranks and sports car racing. So they got some good people, and this is a people sport. You need the right car, you need enough money to do it correctly, but you need good people. That's the main ingredient.
And John Farrow's mentality of giving these opportunities to deserving young drivers, I mean, that was also a lot of what Eric Bachelard did at IndyCar. You look at the names that started for him, a Jan Whalen, for instance, who we saw win in GT World Challenge America. He got his Champ Car opportunity through Eric, and it was a lesser-funded team. They didn't always have great results, but it was a chance to reach the pinnacle that some of these drivers probably wouldn't have had otherwise. And so Eric is very much of that same ethos.
And I think being a driver, I think you're more in tune with looking for talent. No disrespect to team owners who haven't been behind the wheel, but I think you have a different feel. You have a different gut check for someone who's got it. You talk to someone, you can tell, how much they want it versus someone who's just gone through the motions of, hey, I want to be a race car driver, and maybe still having speed, but they don't have that killer instinct and that desire to succeed at this level. So Eric certainly is, as I said before, had a great and very successful IndyCar career. Indy Lights, won the Indy Lights Championship, didn't he?
That's right.
I think he raced against Brian Till, who's the race steward here this weekend for all of the classes now. But I think Eric's a good guy, and he can look someone in the eye. He can watch them on the racetrack and make the right choices.
Still under the red flag here from Sonoma, and you can see the clock has stopped. In fact, a few minutes were added back to go back to the point in which the red flag was displayed. So 33 minutes, 32 seconds still remaining. Not the start to the Pirelli GT4 America season that I think we were hoping for. I mean, when you look at this field and how good the field is, the teams, the drivers, etc., and the number of cars, I mean, you do expect a little bit of the RG and the Bargy, right? But when you have a field that is this large, 42 cars. But yeah, certainly a bit frustrating to see them sitting still. This is an impressive field at speed.
Yeah, as I said earlier, it never disappoints, but obviously they've got to be able to put on the show, and with the incidents we've seen so far today, it's been a very abbreviated green flag run here today. So, but plenty of time on the clock. We've still got, curious to see how far they will shift that pit window till. I would think they have to give them at least a lap, of course, to get settled in, but whether it'll be immediate or whether they'll kind of shift it to maybe 25 to 15 left, which would really make a short stint to the end, but we'll see. They'll make those calculations as we speak.
One of the interesting stories on this grid is the Celine that is running as an invitational entry. I've had a couple people message me on social media wondering what the story is here, because it is Steve Celine, who's part of the driving lineup alongside Eric Curran, who did a lot of the development for first what was the Celine Cup car, and now this car that they are intending to be a GT4 car. It's racing as an invitational this weekend because it's not fully homologated. Evidently, a lot of the data taken here in Sonoma is going to be sent over to France to the SRO technical team, and they're going to use that to hopefully get that car homologated for future appearances. But that is the story there for those that are asking, and interesting to see Steve back behind the wheel for the first time in quite some time. And another driver along those same lines, how about Terry Borcheller? How cool is it to have Terry back? I don't think he's done much in the last 5 years, but gets the call, and we see him back in a race car.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that still lives and breathes it, even though, as you said, he hasn't had a lot of seat time lately. I think it is since 2015, since he did a full year. And met Nick Shanny late last year, did some coaching with him, immediate chemistry, and Nick said, how about next year? And Terry said, absolutely. So saw Terry at St. Petersburg, had a good chat with him when Nick was running the GT America race there. So he's looking for an opportunity, and it could just be the rumor mill, but I already saw Terry's name associated with the Le Mans drive earlier this month. So who knows? It's just a question of getting back on someone's radar, particularly with the driver grading situation. And Terry, his age now, will certainly work in his favor. He's still got plenty of speed in those hands and feet.
Talked about the Absolute Racing story briefly earlier, but since we were featuring Anderson Tanoto from Indonesia just a few moments ago, it's cool to have this team here. They were the team's champions in the Asian arm of SRO, so the GT World Challenge Asia back in 2019, the last time there was a Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia powered by AWS. That championship, unfortunately, hit really hard by COVID-19 and the difficulty in traveling in the Asia-Pacific region. Haven't had seasons, but they are set to go again this year. But Anderson was set to have a neat program with Nikolai Madsen back in 2020 when that season was pulled out from under him, basically, in a GT4 car for Absolute Racing in the Asian Championship. That ultimately got canceled, and he hasn't been able to do much racing since then. Did make one start at Laguna Seca in IMSA GT4 competition last year, but they've got an interesting dual program plan for this season, and just need to have a team of that caliber reaching out and joining the SRO America paddock. Another update here under the red flag from the pit lane, and Amanda.
Well, we were talking about that Capstone Snow Brothers team earlier and all the fun nicknames that are going on between this pairing, but I can confirm, as you guys said, it does say Crazy Cole on the fire suit. Do you like this nickname, Cole?
So John Allen, the team owner, he just put it on there, and I like it so far. I mean, my co-driver's name is Wild Willie, and yeah, so we're just the crazy pairing. We actually have a 40 year gap between us. I'm not sure if it's the biggest age gap on the field, but he's a great driver. I've already learned so much from him so far, and lots of wisdom to come out of him.
We heard that nickname for Chris was Grandpa, but Cal even threw it out. Maybe you should even consider Great Grandpa.
Great Grandpa. Yeah, no, we lots of old jokes in the tent. Too many. It's funny. Grandson, Grandpa. That's what we should be called.
You definitely had some on-track battles last year and a great season for yourself. What are you hoping this year?
We're hoping to win the championship in the silver class. I really have faith in Capstone and Snow Brothers team this year, so hope to be on the podium every race.
Podium and a lot of fun, it sounds like, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Neat young man and cool to see him. He said that he loves this GT4 Mercedes. He had a good time in the BMW, but when he tested it, he said, boy, something clicked. This feels like a real race car, and it suits my style in a way that maybe the BMW didn't. And that's saying something, because he and Tim Barber had their fair share of success.
Right. But I think that's a testimony to the AMG platform, that it is very user-friendly, gives you a lot of confidence, does everything well. It doesn't seem to matter what racetrack you go to, it never seems to be out of the ballpark. It's always the threat for at least a podium. So, you know, that's why it's so popular. That's why we see so many of those cars in the field here this weekend.
Clock rolling once again as the field heads back out onto the track behind the safety car. 32 minutes, 47 seconds and counting left to go in the season opener for Pirelli GT4 America. Gavin Sanders on debut, leading from pole over another debutant, Figueres. So impressive so far. He's got the Crown's Track fastest lap of the race so far, although we've had 3 green flag laps, unfortunately. So I think others will be taking a shot at that. But then Ryan Dexter, great-grandpa himself, Chris Wilson, Manny Franco, another debutant, Anderson Tenoto, did first race for him in the series. Really impressive to see so many new names running so well.
Yeah, and I think that's what's always the exciting part of any new championship season, seeing the new names come in, seeing who can perform immediately. But I think even more so, Ryan, is seeing how drivers evolve over maybe a single season, 2 seasons. We're seeing so many great drivers like Sean Quinlan. Look what he did, how he, you know, sort of like started and where he got to, and the confidence that he now has behind the wheel. He's not competing with us this year, but I think that's a great example with great tutelage with Stephen Cameron Racing, Greg Learfouge, how you can really develop your talent.
Jason Bell fits the mold. Brian Putt fits the mold. And on down the line, those that have stuck around and worked, in many cases, with the same co-driver, same driver coach, and those lessons just add up year after year.
See the marbles offline there, so if you're making a pass or if you get out wide, that's why you get that snowballing effect on the hot race tires. It just grabs those marbles and kind of snowballs itself, and you don't have the grip in the next corner. Ray Newell's car looks like it needs to go through a car wash. I'm not sure who he followed or if he's been off the road himself, but sure well he can see.
Yeah, he's running 7th overall and 2nd in Pro-Am. So it's been a good run for him. He's another one that he's a bit of a different mold because he's younger, but he really found something at the end of the year last year. It clicked. I can't wait to see his progression here this year. I think it might be something out of the Michael Dinan mold of a few years back. Anyway, safety car is in. Nearly halfway through the season opening race, and the field under the control of the rookie, Gavin Sanders, out in front. Eric Figueres giving chase. It is green flag at Sonoma.
Big question is, when do they open that pit stop window? But meanwhile, back to green flag racing. Figueres putting the pressure on our leader.
Gray Newell had it totally sideways, somehow corralled it, only lost 1 spot.
Nice save. That'll wake you up. And again, just these tires are cold. Got a little bit of pickup. You don't have the grip that you're used to. So that's the big adjustment you have to make when you go back to green.
Another spot for Anderson Lau in the Rotec machine, up to 2nd in Pro-Am. Side-by-side entering turn 4. That's Jason Bell on the attack.
Yeah, gets inside Uretsky, gains a position right there. Figueres on the attack. Pit window is open. Who's going to duck in immediately? Do you want to lay down a couple, try and stretch the field a little bit, and then run the risk of another yellow coming out? Figueres looks to the inside, thinks better of it. Sanders takes it in super deep with that Mercedes.
Good racecraft out of a couple.
Look at Wilson making a bold move there in a turn 7A.
Still side by side, working on Ryan Dexter. Here they come. Tough place to go side by side, and he wisely backs out of it.
Used his experience well there. That was going to be a risky move.
Looking to the inside again, or perhaps playing defense on Manny Franco. Here's a lunge up the inside in contact. Around goes Wilson.
Wow.
That was Tenoto.
Yeah, it looked like he's going to be able to carve the corner, but just really just hit Wilson plain square in the rear bumper and turned him.
Here we go. The strategy's starting to play out. So Filgaris comes in, Sanders stays out, and the further back we go, it looks like a traffic jam on the 101 coming into the pit lane.
That's going to be a factor too, with this many cars coming in so close together. You expect them, when the pit window opens, to see a bundle of cars coming in, but these are all coming in nose to tail. It's going to make it very hectic and tight down on pit lane. Could that be a factor in terms of staying out and maybe having a bit more space to get in and out of your pit box?
Now this is a front-running car for the moment. Curious what the stewards will think about that, but Tenozo handing it over to Lars Kern. Gray Newell handing over the heart of racing, Aston to Ian James. See Paul Sparta pitting. It'll be Al Carter taking over the Random Vandals Racing BMW. Really interesting, though. A couple of the front runners electing to stay out. Sanders and Dexter, and a couple others, too, that were further back that might actually benefit more because they avoided that traffic jam.
Yeah, they are. And again, when you have these silver-silver pairings, there's no real disadvantage in terms of the driver performance by staying out. So you're just running the gamble of getting a yellow and throwing an extra curveball at you. But the tires are good. And maybe just with this clean track right now. And this is a pretty big pit stop window here. You're going to see the leader come around, and some of those early pitters will still be just coming out of pit lane. So it's really going to be about where you meet the traffic as well. So you got to play that into your strategy as well if you elect to stay out one more lap than they already have.
Oh, look at all that traffic in the pit lane. The car that's stuck on the inside does have to give way by rule to the cars in the fast lane.
If there's any overlap, the car in the fast lane, as we call it, gets priority.
Looks like Sanders.
Yeah, this is the problem. You see, the 34 has stayed out, and now he's back behind a bunch of cars that are exiting pit lane. So I don't like the strategy call here. I'd have ducked in because that was going to be the key. Even though it's 92 seconds, it's still shorter than a lap around the racetrack, even at speed on a clear racetrack. So now suddenly Sanders is having to deal with all these drivers getting up to speed.
The good news is it's the pros in the Pro-Am lineups that have gotten in. So that's Greg Leofouge. There's no slouch up ahead. It shouldn't hold him up too terribly much, but it's definitely compromising his lap. See just how much once the pit stops cycle through. Looks like Ian James trying to play defense on Kenton Cook, who we heard from earlier. Kenton Cook to the inside. Is he late on the brakes? Yes, he is. B-Sport racing up a spot. Kenton Cook on his outlap, not wasting any time.
Yeah, well, as you said, these guys and these team combinations like Ian and Gray and certainly Brian Putt, Kenton Cook, they need to take advantage of the fact that they know this race car and they know the ropes a lot better than some of the new combinations. Get those points early, get the points on the board before everyone finds their feet in this championship season.
Cook had to go on the defense there to keep James at bay, and he did so. See how valuable that move was. Both of these cars were running right there in the mix within the Pro-Am class. Sanders is in the pits now.
Well, this will be the key. Filgaris to McAleer. How does that compare between this one and Sanders and Mackay Stevens? That will give you a decision, which was right, which was wrong. If they both execute the same pit stop time, it will come down to the strategy of doing that undercut almost versus staying out those extra couple of laps.
Mackay Stevens, who we heard from a few minutes back, he'll be jumping aboard that Conquest Mercedes. Here's Filgaris. Actually, I should say that is now McAleer who has taken over for Filgaris.
He's going to be on full attack mode here. He recognizes this could be where you win this race. This next lap. How hard he pushes this. Doesn't seem like he's got any traffic. Here we see that 34 car in pit lane. Got McAleer probably coming down about the turn 9 area on the racetrack right now.
Steven is pushing. The Scotsman now living in upstate New York, driving for RS1, long-standing Porsche team.
I think he's going to get it. I don't think it's going to be... I'm not sure what position in pit lane that 34 car is. Around the corner a little bit. It's kind of that curve in the pit lane there. There he goes, he's released.
Ooh, this will be
Gets
close.
Mcelroy. I think Mcelroy's going to get him.
Top two as the pit window opened, and Stephen Mcelroy zips by while Mackay Stevens still is crawling up to speed, leaving the pits here with 23 minutes to go, and the lead has changed. RS1 around Conquest. Pit stop strategy, Calvin, ultimately playing a massive role.
Yeah, and hard to pinpoint. I don't have all of the data in front of me, but I'd have to feel that traffic that Gavin got on his in lap was really the key determining factor there.
Another key factor is that Mcelroy on that push lap set the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race. You see it there on the screen. And so effectively, while the Conquest car was sitting still, Mcelroy was going faster than anybody has so far in this race.
They clear racetrack as well, so perfect opportunity for him. Tires are in great shape, so really had done a lot of green flag running. It was in its sweet spot. Track is still good, cooling off a little bit, but still decent track temperature for the day. And they made it stick, so have to see. Mackay Stevens, as you said, he's coming off a full race win streak at the end of 2021. Can he dig deep and somehow find a way to get to Mcelroy's rear bumper today?
Stewards have ruled drive-through penalty to this car for the contact in the chicane that happened just before the pit stops. So Lars Kern will have to pay the penalty for Anderson Chinotto's transgression. That's unfortunate because this car was having a very solid run up to that time.
I was amazed he got it turned.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think if Wilson hadn't been there, he'd have probably going to get through the corner at that speed. It was just unfortunately he misjudged the fact of the traffic.
This is, I believe, a replay of the incident in question, and he did come from a long way back.
Long way back, yeah. Maybe his speed was arrested by hitting the Mercedes.
I still think we're going to see a lot from this team tomorrow, and then any other races they elect to run. Hopefully we see a lot more of them.
The championship has so much momentum off a brilliant 2021 season. That's off to the championship and Jack Baldwin, the class series manager, and doing a great job in just terms of attracting teams with pedigrees like Absolute.
I say he's having a great run, and it's true. He's the leader in Pro-Am right now, but that won't be for long, and that will promote Kenton Cook. So that pass that Kenton made on Ian James a few laps ago, that effectively was for the Pro-Am class lead.
Yep, and they recognized that. I mean, Kenton realized there was an opportunity there he had to go for it, because once someone settles in, particularly with the speed and experience of Ian James, they become a much harder hurdle to overcome.
Austin Smith, talked about him earlier. He had a really good start. It was up about 10 spots right from the get-go after having to start quite a ways back. I think it was 33rd or something to that effect. And he'll be turning over to Zach Anderson. He's in the pits right now. Ryan Dexter and Dexter Racing staying on the track, running deep into this pit window. Dominic Starkweather is the co-driver with Ryan. And they are playing the total opposite strategy card, and I'm really curious. Ryan's a quick driver to see where that ultimately puts them out. They were down a little bit in the order after a difficult start, so they might be able to jump up a few spots.
Yeah, that could wash out nicely. Depends on traffic, of course, but everyone's getting traffic right now as we settle back into the normal rhythm of this race. It was just that Mcelroy's outlaps compared to 34 in-laps were totally different in terms of pace.
Inside 20 minutes to go here in the season opener, which has finally found a bit of a rhythm. Interesting here, pit window closed, overall leader has not come in, so they mistimed this one. Well, it was more complicated than normal. Usually you can count on when it's going to be, but if you lost track of exactly when the pit window opened, it's not that same prescribed 34 minutes, 59 seconds that you usually see. It got pushed back because of the yellow. That might account for it. Here's a side-by-side battle. Austin Smith, that would be actually Anderson now driving, and James Clay, the veteran, trying to go on the attack.
I love it when James gets his elbows out. Certainly feisty, great competitor. As he turned that business into a huge success both on and off the racetrack.
Pair of BMW M4 GT4s, and just like we saw a brand new iteration of the M4 in GT3 spec debut this year. There's a new M4 GT4 on the way.
Yeah, everyone's very excited about that. You see how many BMWs are in this field, you know that the order book is going to be filled up pretty quickly. A great debut season so far with the M4 GT3 machine. Early days, but already showing strong signs of success.
Update from Race Control. The Dexter Racing team, you see them in the pits now. It is under review as to whether or not they got in time. So don't write the obituary just yet. All this traffic. BMW, Toyota, albeit with the BMW power plant.
Yep.
And an Audi.
This is just awesome racing. This sector of the racetrack, I think, is one of the most challenging sectors in all of North America. I didn't race here a lot, but I never really got comfortable up through here.
Why?
Just the elevation change, knowing that you're in the right spot on the racetrack, the grip level of the circuit, and you know, just like the blind sight lines. You're coming up over the crest there in turn 2 into turn 3. Plus, I'm on the shorter side. I couldn't see very well over the hills.
That's relatable. McAleer leading the way in this car. 3.2 seconds over Mackay Stevens. The RS1 guys, they were on top of it from a strategy perspective. Great execution in the pits. Stevens, though, giving chase. That last lap was his best, and it was 0.3 quicker than McAleer. So it's not done yet.
No, not by a long way. So. But McAleer is crafty. I mean, you talk about someone who's on top of his game. Just made the move from Scotland and just really networked well. He's a very busy guy running a number of championships this year. And again, like we talk about with the opportunities in this paddock by networking like Kenton Cook is doing, like guys like Andrew Davis is doing, Greg Leafouche. You know, just great to see Stephen McAleer getting the opportunities at this stage of his career. One of the best.
Well, we talked a lot about Conquest Racing in this, but they actually have 2 cars, and this is the sister car in the shot, the 35, that just gave way to Ian James. That's an out-of-class battle, because right now it's Josh Hurley from California driving that number 35 Mercedes. He took over for Manny Franco, and at the moment is running where? 3rd in silver, 5th overall.
He's right there, so Ian James will know this is not a battle for position in class behind him. The team will give him that over the radio, and Ian's savvy enough. He's one of those drivers who's got enough headspace. He can do the calculations in his head. He'll probably know which car's in which class and know who he needs to be fighting hard with.
This for Conquest. They've got 2 cars provisionally on the podium in silver, 2nd and 3rd right now. Oh, big move. That's Aaron Thielitz, former Indy Lights driver. He's attacking Austin Smith, former touring car driver.
Yeah, Thielitz getting the elbows out a little bit there, coming through turn 4. Down in the carousel. Great to see names like him, part of Jimmy Vass's team, Vassar Sullivan Racing, with the Lexus program in North America. So great to see him with the TRD affiliation getting this opportunity here with the coaching and now driving role as well.
Yeah, this car has come to life since he jumped in, replacing Todd Coleman. Not a driver with a ton of experience. He's done some Ferrari Challenge, and actually that's where he met Aaron. Aaron was his coach in Ferrari Challenge. And we did get the confirmation on the Dexter Racing story. Drive-through coming for missing the pit window. So right now, Starkweather has dropped to 10th, and he's about to drop a lot further down. Look at all of this traffic through the chicane. Somehow they make it through.
They do. Thielitz there really trying to play the chess match there, positioning that car to get that track position. He may have made it happen.
Austin Smith.
Oh, and he's in deep. Yep. Thielitz in deep there. He may have missed his braking point. No, keeps it together.
Smith couldn't bounce. We've got Supras side by side, just a little bit further back. One of them is Starkweather. That's the car that needs to serve that penalty in the bright yellow Supra. That was started by Moise Uretsky, but it's Justin Piscatel, the journeyman, who got the call to join Uretsky in that machine for Pirelli GT4 America. One of those guys that you don't see him all that often, but when he jumps in, he gets results. I remember one year he ran a support race at Daytona and started 2 different cars, and he finished 3rd on the podium in both cars in 2 different classes.
I think we called him Super Sub at one point. He just kept getting these opportunities and making the most of it.
I'm really excited to see what he can do this year, especially if that pans out to be something close to, if not a full season opportunity. Doesn't get many of those. You go through his resume, and there aren't many full seasons for Justin Piscatella. Really quick driver.
Bit of traffic here involved, but certainly Stevens continues to eat into that lead of Stephen McAleer. Now he's got to deal with this traffic a little bit, clears that. Head is down, but time is running out as well at the same time.
I do want to give a call to the car he just passed. Johann Schwartz, longtime World Challenge and SRO viewers will know the name. Stalwart and champion in the touring car ranks, the Drift King. And he's here with Rooster Hall Racing. First time we've seen driver and team both in quite some time. Race vision powered by AWS, corner speeds at turn 6. And yeah, Mackay Stevens, he's pushing it.
He really is. He's got a fast car underneath him, but he's got a lot of experience. And I'm not sure if it's equally fast, but certainly a quick Cayman in front of him he's trying to chase down.
Well, the last few laps, the edge has been to Stevens. That last lap, he took half a second out of Stephen McAleer.
They both had to clear traffic on that lap, but it does seem that he's got that little extra pace. So how quickly can he get to the tail end of McAleer and have enough time to work with, figure out where there may be a chink in his armor?
Talked about James Clay earlier, getting his elbows out, and he right now has raced the Bimmer World car to the lead in the AM class. Just wanted to update that real fast. They run 15th overall, and very much in the mix. Here you go, those are the gaps. The last few laps, you can see just how much of an advantage Mackay Stevens has had here since lap 19.
Yeah, that adds up to a second over those 3 laps, second plus, so he's coming in a hurry. We got about 6-7 laps left in this race.
It's going to be tight because the difference is 2.1 seconds. At the rate they're going, I could see him getting there, but it doesn't leave you with a whole lot of time to try and make the move.
No, and a ton of experience too. Stephen McAleer is just world class in terms of driving one of these GT4 machines. He's not going to let this win go easily.
Remember, Stephen last year ran with the Classic BMW team. They ran a partial schedule. He and Toby Krahovic started at Circuit of the Americas. Ended up 4th in the championship despite missing the 2 races here at Sonoma. And won 2 races, including 1 overall, back 1 year ago. How about this? We've gone nearly 50 minutes into this race and haven't talked about the return of Billy Johnson. Awesome. One of the best in a Mustang across multiple platforms. And he's here running with Edgar Lau in the 124 you see right there with Andrew Davis giving chase.
Yeah, Billy Johnson, just a long-time association with the Ford brand, of course. Has won tons of races with them, had that great opportunity with Chip Ganassi Racing in the Ford GT program, ran at Le Mans, just has a lot of raw talent.
Actually won a race in the World Endurance Championship for Chip Ganassi Racing back in the 2018-2019 season when they ran at Spa in the build-up to Le Mans. So many years associated not just with Ford but with Multimatic, running the various Ford products that they've worked on.
He was probably involved in the development of this GT4 car that are built by Multimatic, so he'll know the car well. Just has won a ton of these GT4 class races over the years here in North America.
Right now, fighting over 5th and 6th. Ford and Aston Martin, just 10 minutes to go. 2 savvy veterans, Billy Johnson and Andrew Davis.
Battle at the front. Advantage to McAleer on the fastest last go around by 1/10 of a second. Let's see what they hit the stripe with this time. 1/10 slower, so it's nip and tuck, punch, counter punch between the 2 leaders right now.
Well, that might as well be a pretty good body blow from McAleer because, yeah, he lost a 10th, but still it's a 2.1 second gap, and the clock is down under 9 minutes to go. You can afford to give up a 10th here and there the rest of the way and still have a fairly comfortable margin. So I'm sure Mcelroy was just saving something, keeping a little bit in reserve. Now that the pressure is mounting, he's going to the well and extracting that resource.
Yeah, I think with a clear racetrack, he may now have enough to manage the end of this race and maybe bring it home. The key is going to be, does he encounter any traffic, and does he suddenly lose a half second or a second, and suddenly Mackay Stevens is right with him.
Pro-Am fight for the lead is not done. This is 3rd and 4th overall, but 1st and 2nd in the Pro-Am category. Kenton Cook made that big move down into the hairpin right after the pit stop window. Got the lead, although it wasn't for the lead at the time, but it became the lead with the penalty to the Dexter Racing car. And now...
And this is why you have to pounce when you got someone like Ian James, if the opportunity is there. If not, suddenly Ian will use all of his experience, his racecraft, to position that car to not let you get by. But now the role has been reversed. 2 really quick drivers in these Astons going at it for the class win.
Aaron Tiewitz, by the way, made up another spot by Devin Jones. He's now 10th overall, 8th in Pro-Am, so his hard charge in his, I believe, GT4 debut continues.
It'll be fun to see him start in the race tomorrow, see what he can do with that.
Ooh.
So that little patch of fluid there, looks like they're locking up the brakes. I think they're just hitting that little rivulet that runs across the track there.
A lot of rain overnight, and then again this morning, just in time to go qualifying, in fact. And it hasn't totally evaporated, despite the fact we've been sunny all day since then and running race cars since about 8 o'clock this morning.
A busy day. Just great entertainment. Unfortunately, the first half of this race was abbreviated with a bunch of yellows, but since that time, fascinating to see these duels.
This race has settled into a nice rhythm. This is the recovering Lars Kern making a move. Looks like that is for 21st overall, not a class position changing hands. And around Martinez and the number 83, currently 5th in AM.
It's a great battle. Oh, look at Ian James really fighting the wheel there, trying to get on the power and chase after Kenton Cook there. Late in the game now, been on the same set of Pirelli P0s, admittedly, with a little bit of a breather with the cautions, but nonetheless, they're going to be wringing the neck of these race cars trying to fight for this win.
Jason Hart just picked up a spot in Pro-Am. He's now 3rd, final step of the podium. That's, though, 5 seconds behind this duo. Hart was able to clear Andy Lee in the GMG Aston that was doing very well to be running in that position.
He's just trying to figure out a way. How can I just attack these curbs a little bit differently through that turn 9 area to maybe gain a half a tenth here and there and just be close enough to maybe make a move down into one of these brake zones. He talked to me yesterday about the importance of really tugging it tight coming off that turn 11 hairpin. Getting the grip there. If you run out wide, there's no grip out there.
Should also update you that Mcelroy has found the answer to the Mackay Stevens problem. He's been quicker the last few laps, and that lead has now grown to 2.7 seconds. Dropping back, though, Charlie Boston started this car. James Clay will finish the day, and he has a nice lead at the moment in the AM category. Thomas Merrill chasing him down as best as he can. He runs 2nd, and Al Carter is 3rd. For Random Vandals Racing.
Well, that's great, because Paul Sparta was pretty disappointed with his qualifying run this morning. Didn't get a clean one in, and but felt they had potential in that car. So for Al Carter to get that car up into a podium run is testimony to both those guys doing a good job.
Stephen Mcelroy, former champion in MX5 Cup back in 2012. He's still a team owner in that series with Chad McCumbee, who we've seen race in Pirelli GT4 America in the past, typically with the Pesic team. I think we might just see them in the next round, which is at the brand new track at the Lake of the Ozarks that the Pesic family has built on their own dime. From, by all accounts, an amazing facility, totally privately funded, and cannot wait to be the first pro racing event in the history of that new track come May.
Yeah, I hear simply spectacular, like a mini Nürburgring, so going to be a big challenge for the drivers learning that one for the first time.
Getting cooked, just that little bit defensive.
James is closer. Is he going to racer. Look how tight he is there coming off that hairpin turn.
Well, this would be a big result for Ian James and Gray Newell. They had 2 podiums last season, both at Watkins Glen, a second and a first in those 2 races. Other than that, they did not have a finish better than 6th. And Gray took a big step, especially in the second half of the year. And to start with a podium finish, regardless of if it's second or third, I think that's got to be a huge boost for Gray in particular. Here comes James, though.
He's got some speed in that car. Seems like he can put the car wherever he wants it to go. Kenton hasn't opened up the door right now, and oh, he's got it. He's going to take it around the outside. What a move. Can he hang on to it? Look at him fighting the wheel. Got a little bit of understeer coming off. Kenton comes back at him. Who's going to get the power down first?
Might have been a little contact between the 2 Astons. Drag race time, headed down to turn number 7. Ian James looking to the inside of Kenton Cook, the fight for the Pro-Am lead.
This is going to be awfully tight. They give each other just enough racing room. What a battle. That is first-class racing right there.
2 of the best in the GT4 Aston Martin on North American shores. And Ian James has Heart of Racing back on top.
Is that a victory way from the wipers there? I don't know. To wait and see. Still a couple of minutes on the clock, but Ian's just got to hang on here. He's had the faster car, it looked like, over the last 10 minutes or so. Chased down Kenton Cook and then just made it stick. Beautiful racecraft there and great hard racing by Kenton trying to defend.
And lurking in the background, not much time left, but here comes Jason Hart, the reigning Pro-Am champion, new co-driver here this year, but he is on the charge at the moment. He's running remarkably quick lap times, over a second faster than the top 2.
Yeah, as they were battling each other, slowing each other up, Jason Hart said, I'm loving this, but he's running out of time as well, looking at the clock.
Overall leader, and the leader in the silver class, that's Stephen McAleer. Kai Stevens has closed it back down somewhat, Calvin, 2.2 seconds, but it's going to take a mistake or traffic or something untoward to happen to Stephen McAleer.
Yeah, he took off a second out of that gap on the last lap. I think you're correct. I think McAleer's just controlling this. 14 to go, so I think they're going to get this lap plus 1 more, right? I think we're seeing the white flag, and I think, yeah, I think they're going to be still some time on the board by the time he gets to the stripe, so it should be white flag next time.
I was told there would be no match, so I leave that in your capable hands.
We had a close one earlier today.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Always fun if you got a big lead. Sometimes you can even manage that, slow down enough to get that checkered flag a lap early. So it's a time certain race.
Kai Stevens, young man from Evanston, Illinois, Chicago suburb. Give Stephen McAleer all he can handle. Make it easy for him. But the crucial moment in this race, Calvin, happened in the pit lane.
It was. It's just the timing. I mean, Eric Filgaris elected to dive in, or the team called him in at the first opportunity, and the Conquest Racing team elected to keep their car out for a couple of laps.
Whoa, what's happened here? Kenton Cook has passed Ian James, and so has Jason Hart. So everything changing here, headed to the final lap in Pro-Am. Cook the leader. Hart, though, the hard charger here as of late, runs second. Ian James all of a sudden slips down to third and seems to be off the pace.
Well, was the door opened by Kenton there? Was there any argy-bargy, any contact, or did Ian just have a little off-course excursion?
Oh, and Andy Lee is coming too, so it's not done yet for Ian James. The podium is no sure thing at this stage.
It's a battle here.
Yes, this is the AM lead.
And Thomas Merrill is coming hard after James Clay. Got battles everywhere. Very tight between all 3 classes right now. Less than a second or 2 between all of them.
And the common thread is it's a NOLA Sport car that has found the pace here as the clock ticks down to all zeros. This is NOLA Sport running currently second in AM, with Thomas Merrill driving one of these brand new Porsche 17 Cayman GT4 machines.
Yeah, they certainly look very strong over the longer runs. That's what you want. You want a quick car, which they have been this weekend, and strong at the end of these races on the long stints.
McAleer continuing to lead overall, 2.3 seconds over Stevens. Last we saw, Kenton Cook was leading Jason Hart, but there's no guarantee it stayed that way. To the front of the field, and Stephen McAleer, RS1, coming around to complete a great performance. The team did the job in the pits, and Stephen McAleer finishes the job. McAleer wins at Sonoma.
Great drive. Great drive. Congratulations to him.
Kenton Cook has managed the gap. He and Brian Putt, they've been winners once before, looking for the second win for B-Sport Racing. Just one corner away. Cook, Putt, and B-Sport win in Pro-Am.
What a start to their campaign. Talked about it, made it happen.
And I do
Where's
not know.
Ian James? I don't see him.
No.
There he is, maybe.
He has dropped down, and wow, does finally take the checkered flag, but all the way down in 8th. Now we go to the M-Class battle. James Clay out in front of Thomas Merrill. One last chance for Merrill, but Clay covers it. The sprint to the checkered flag, and James Clay, Bimmer World win. Race number 1 of the 2022 season.
Whew. That one came good at the end, didn't it?
It was worth the wait.
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking with us. I know the first 10, 20 minutes with all the yellow and the red flag, that wasn't ideal, but we got what we expected in the second half of this one, and the fastest lap of the race to this car, Stephen McAleer, a 1:46.1, holds on by 1.6 seconds over Mackay Stevens to win the season opener.
When it was hammer time, McAleer delivered, didn't he?
He did. No doubt about it. Can't wait to hear from our winners. No shortage of drama in that one. Let's see, anything else? So Andy Lee on the podium for GMG. I want to see if they did that last year. Andy teaming up with Elias Sabo.
Don't think so. No.
Best finish, I believe, was 9th in the Sebring Race 2.
Yeah, that's great for those guys. That's
really
great
good
for those guys. Steve Costello is working with that group. He was my mechanic when I first came to the States and ran Formula Ford. Yeah.
Provisional results from Race 1 of Pirelli GT4 America at Sonoma Raceway. Eric Filgaris will win on debut with Stephen McAleer as the co-driver. Top 2 silver class cars. Then you get to the Pro-Am runners. Brian Putt, Kenton Cook. Can't wait to hear from them about what exactly happened. How did Kenton get back to the front?
Yeah.
Looked like he had lost the lead to Ian James. Well, he had. Looked like he'd lost the win and somehow recovers to get back up there. Rest of the Pro-Am podium, Hart, great charge. He and Sam Owen, that'll be really cool. Or Scott Noble, excuse me. That'll be really cool. First race for him in the Pro-Am class, and then Lee and Sabo in 3rd.
Lee Johnson just off the podium.
Yeah. Gives you an idea of what to expect from that team.
Yeah. Dyer, a great run. Tom Dyer there in the 9:30 Carbon entry.
It's up in 5th. And then in Am, James Clay, Thomas Merrill. How close was it? Try 17 hundredths of a second. Merrill 2nd, and Derek DeBoer back down to the Am class this year for TRG. After running in Pro-Am with Spencer Papelli in recent years, he completes the podium on home soil for the team. That's a big deal for TRG.
Bounce back. They've had electrical gremlins all weekend long, been working with the Porsche engineers. Derek texted me to say we're struggling, but we'll keep fighting, and they'll be happy with that, try and bounce back even further tomorrow.
And Jason Alexandridis, his co-driver in 2022, ran just a handful of races last year.
Appropriate rebounders, right?
Bingo. Exactly so. Jason's main company, the Rebounders Indoor Trampoline Park. So there you have it. Big run for the TRG team. Now here's the back of the field, a couple of cars and drivers. Didn't have the run they were looking for. Schwez Povaledo, tough luck in 2 races today, Calvin. A penalty in the GT4 America race really cost them, and then contact here. They've got a big night of repairs, it looks like, to get ready for 2 races tomorrow.
Well, I hate to say this, but it's how the end part of last year when they had a lot of potential, but just couldn't quite get it across the line. So, see, hopefully the car's not too badly damaged and they can return tomorrow and fight again.
Fingers crossed as we look at highlights from race 1 of the season. The initial start, Gavin Sanders, the young Canadian on pole, did a really good job for Conquest Racing. He led throughout his stint. Filgaris previewing things to come, I think, with an aggressive move around the outside of Ryan Dexter.
Yeah, really made some wise decisions, and then the team made a great one. This is an early problem here for the 39. Big moment here for the 10 car. Tears off that left front corner. Big delay. We went red.
Looked like a car that could contend. This was, what, Ray Newell, I believe.
Yes, it
working
was.
with Edgar Lau there, and a big save out of him. Contact here that took out the Pro-Am contenders, a couple of them. Well, a silver contender and a Pro-Am contender going out with a penalty for Tenoto. Side by side, this was between a couple of BMWs. This, though, ultimately was the battle for the race lead in GT4. Ian James muscled his way by, only to lose it when that car dropped off the pace late in the race.
Yeah, just a wild one here. Here you can see it set up. Jason Hart takes advantage of this and gets a big run on Ian James at the same time.
Hart up the inside, breaks his way to second for Nola Sport, the reigning Pro-Am champion. Put some pressure on Kenton Cook in the final laps, but came up just that bit short. Meanwhile, Stephen McAleer crossing the line for RS1 to take the first checkered flag of the season. This is the AM class battle, and what a classic it was.
Yeah, James Clay, late move to GT4 for this year, and comes up with a big win.
Holds off the charge by Thomas Merrill and picks up the season opening win. There's the winning car trying to get to victory lane. A couple of the top cars making their way towards the podium area where we will be hearing from the winners here shortly. Oh my goodness, what a day of racing, Calvin, and capped off with a dramatic run to the checkers in Pirelli GT4 America.
Yeah, it really was. We were anticipating this race with such a strong field, so many new entries in terms of teams and new drivers joining the championship. Had a bit of a stunned first half to this race, but boy, did it catch fire here for the last 30 minutes or so.
There's the celebratory hug. McAleer and Filgaris. Handshakes and high fives all around, celebrating a race win overall and in the silver class. Trying to find third in silver. Who did that end up going to? It was Zach Anderson.
Yeah, good to see him back and good to see him on the podium again.
Yeah, really great job. Down, though, to Victory Circle and Amanda.
Well, as the teammates talk about the win that they just have here at the first race of the season, Eric, you pick up a win in your debut coming into this weekend. Why was this possible?
It was a team effort. You know, these RS1 guys work so hard. We've never been here before. I've never driven on this track before. So Steven and I have been working through the car's setup, what we're supposed to be doing on track. I mean, just communicating as teammates. And he's been a fantastic teammate to me so far this year. And we're looking forward to a lot more from this. These RS1 guys, like I said, they know these Porsches. And every guy who puts their hands on these cars is fantastic. So thanks to those guys.
You go back to the pit stop, and then you have the battle on track with the Mercedes. You were able to pull away from it around 5 minutes left to go. But how much did strategy play into this win today, Stephen?
You know, it was a big strategy. We managed to jump the 34 car in the pits, which I think was really important. The tyre wear around here is crazy, so to get past him at the end there probably would have been quite tough. Once we got a little lead, I tried to manage the gap, and then I saw him sneaking back up on him, and I had to try and turn it back up again. So great job from Eric. That's 2 for 2. We got one in another series. We got another one here, and you know, we're excited. RS1 has been fantastic, and first win for the Porsche and SRO.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So
You heard him talk about managing that gap, and we were speculating he probably got told, well, the gap's coming down, Stephen, pick it up, and he did.
Almost needs that Kimmy line, right? Leave me alone, I know what I'm doing.
He's too polite for that, Stephen McAleer. Well, they'll be celebrating tonight, but they get to go again tomorrow. And is a look at the winning car, and then a lot of smiles down here in the Pro-Am ranks. Kenton Cook, his wife Danny alongside there on the left, Brian Putt. And Amanda is standing by with our Pro-Am winners.
I think we're all discussing the end of this race. We got Jack Baldwin here asking the same thing, but how did you get back around Ian? I know the answer, but let's tell the audience.
Yeah, so, I mean, when we were initially dicing there, I was just like freaking trying to hang on to that thing, defending with all my life there. and Ian was able to get by me coming through, obviously into turn 7 there. And when he stuffed it up the inside going into 7, I gave him the car width in 1 inch, and he took the 2 inches and the car width, and we rubbed a little bit there, and I think it was a decent rub to where it might have put his left front tire down. And I think that might have been what caused him to go off. But I got him back coming into the chicane while he was kind of a wounded soul there. So it was all like pretty tough, hard racing, but clean, in my opinion. But it was good fun. But yeah, Brian did a heck of a job to get me up there to P4 in class, and then we had a good stop, and yeah, we took it the rest of the way home. But man, I had to work for that one.
Brian, I saw out of the corner of my eyes you just smiling at Kenton the whole time during that interview, and you think about the highs and lows of racing. How is this for a punctuation on your day?
I'll tell you, this ended the day just the way we needed to end it. It started really hard. Actually, it's been a really crazy mixed day. You know, a pole to start the day, a horrible race one with the GT America, and then to come out and have this happen with where we started from. Really good stuff. Very exciting. Really happy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Second career win for Brian Putt in GT4 America. Has had some success in touring cars before that. And there are the scars of battle, Calvin. Kevin talked about it.
Yeah, there's going to be some teams a little bit of work to do tonight, some more than others, but hopefully they'll all come back tomorrow and do battle once again. Just a great opening day to our full championship season. I know we were at St. Petersburg for the opening rounds for GT America, but this is the full bore. This is the real meal deal. And we had some great racing.
One more pair of happy winners to hear from. Let's do it now.
Well, there is celebration happening just off camera here, but I know it'll be a nice celebration for these two. They started on pole, and Charlie, when you reflect on this race, what will you take from it that your performance blamed here?
Well, really, maybe it's commentary on the rest of the field. You know, there's a lot of carnage on my stint, so I think I probably only had 4 or 5 racing laps. So really, it was just I did lucky to avoid all the damage. We had a healthy start, or a healthy lead, I should say, over the rest of the AM cars. So really, it was just a case of handing it over to my partner here who brought it home. And so we like to think that this isn't the best track for us, but we brought it home. So to win here in the M4 is awesome, and we're looking forward to a great rest of the year.
And brought it home with a battle indeed. Talk us through those last couple of laps from your rearview mirror.
Yeah, so I thought Al Carter in the other BMW M4 was going to be the guy, but all of a sudden I hear there's this Porsche back there, and then he's closing, and I mean I just didn't talk, and it's rare for me. I usually chatter, and Dave Wagner in my ear every lap, twice a lap, 3 times a lap. At some point I'm like, all right, man, just I got it, I can see it. But Charlie gave me the car in a great spot, and I had a healthy enough lead. Even though we don't have the best car for this track, we made it happen today.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a great point about the car and horses for courses, right? Not every track is going to be perfect. This was the final dash to the checkered in the M class. And maximizing your days when the cards are stacked against you, whether it's BOP or just not quite the right car-track combination, that's what it's all about.
It's horses for courses, and we know that BMW, for example, is super strong at VIR, and there's going to be other tracks where they're tough, and they thought they may struggle here. So to get a win, and particularly with the late addition to this GT4 program for Bimmerworld in putting James back in one of their cars in that class versus GT3, just hats off to the whole group. Parsons did a great job as well. Charlie did.
Yeah, he sure did. Great drive. Fascinating race. Really dramatic finish in all 3 classes, especially Pro-Am and Am. Sets the table nicely for what we have in store tomorrow.
So we'll get some rest.
Indeed. Looking over the verdant countryside here in Northern California, Sonoma Raceway lies quiet after a full day of racing. The sheep grazing in the hillside in lieu of the lawnmowers. That's how Sonoma keeps tabs on the grass. And really a fun atmosphere, a great venue, one that it just makes a lot of sense to get the season started here in Northern California.
Yeah, wonderful setting, wonderful backdrop, very challenging racetrack, awesome fields of racing. And it didn't disappoint in terms of the action on the circuit, and we expect more tomorrow. Should be a dry day. Don't anticipate any rain like we had here this morning.
Understand podium celebrations are about to commence, so we will be sticking around to show you those. To cap off a fun day of racing in wine country. Well, champagne set to be sprayed, though, up on the podium at Sonoma Raceway. Look over the countryside and looking back on the day that was, Calvin, not just in Pirelli GT4 America, but across the board. So much growth, so much excitement about the various SRO America championships. GT World Challenge America with 20 cars, 42 took the start here, well into the 30s in the touring car classes, and then upper 20s in GT America. It's amazing to see the passion for road racing really rekindled.
Well, road racing is in a great place right now, sports car racing in general, but I think with the championship, they've done a great job of really making it viable for these teams to be here, listening to their clients, listening to the customers, and it's brought on a huge influx of new, exciting teams. The established teams are staying, new, exciting drivers, great opportunities for young drivers as well. So everything's good. There's Elias Sabo and Andy Lee. They're going to be super pumped to get that podium here today.
No doubt about it. We chronicled their run last year in a partial schedule, just a best finish of 9th, and this is a huge step forward. And, you know, we've talked about it a few times. Some of these drivers, all of a sudden, something clicks, and they make that big jump. And Elias, he's been working at it for a few years now. This might be his time to take that next big step.
Well, they've switched teams, switched platforms as well with the Flying Lizard group, and the Aston Martin Vantage has proven to be a winner many, many times in this class. And Andy Lee, we know his pedigree. He was a GTS, formerly of the GT4 class, was known as GTS, and he was a stalwart in there for many, many years. And just looking for an opportunity. He's one of those drivers that may have slipped through the net, but he's back, and now he's back on the podium, so that's wonderful to see.
Coveted hardware that will go to the winners in each of the classes. Those appear bound to the M-class winners, so James Clay, who we heard from just a few moments ago, Charlie Postins as well. Cool to see him come stateside after doing so much of his racing over in Germany on the Nürburgring Nordschleife. See them chatting, sharing some war stories. I think that's half the fun, right? Getting out and swapping tails.
Bench racing.
Yes.
What's it all about. Can't have too many beers tonight. You got to be ready to go tomorrow, but maybe tomorrow night they'll celebrate even harder.
Cool to see too for Brian Putt and the hard work that he's put in, taking the jump from the touring cars. He had some success running the DSG Gearbox TCR car a few years ago, and you know, with a team that he was running with folded, that's really where this B-Sport racing idea began. And latched on quickly to Kenton Cook, not just to drive, but to help manage and run the team. What a great partnership it's proven to be. They threw that team together pretty last minute to be on the grid for 2020. And talking to him, it just felt like a thrash. They felt so much more prepared going into last year and took a big step forward, and that step continuing here. Why don't we lay out for a moment and let you listen in to the podium celebrations at Sonoma.
Finishing in the second position, driving for NOLA Sport, also in a Porsche, Alon Stad and Thomas Merrill. And your victors for the Memorial Team, driving a BMW M4. Let's welcome up Charlie Postins and James Clay.
Top 3 in
Well
the
done
AM
to our
class.
podium finishers. Gentlemen,
Making their
if you
way
can
up onto
pick up your
the podium.
trophies, hold them up nice and high. They are a little heavier than last year. You got to be strong. Hold them up nice and high.
I'm curious,
Big
I thought
smiles.
that we were going to see the Random Vandals car up on the podium. They must have lost that spot on that last lap, and it was really
Well
close.
done to our podium finishers.
Wow.
To
This
the
year we
TRG
also have a
pairing.
new
Yeah.
hat dance.
It's 3/10
so we gotta
of a
get the
second.
VP Racing caps on, guys.
So Derek must have made a
Then we'll
move
take a
there
photo
towards the
photo
end.
with the trophies. No
On
champagne
Al
yet.
Carter.
Don't jump the gun.
Apologies there. Thought for sure that that's the direction it was headed, so have to check in with those involved to see what happened
And
at the tail end of this
James
race.
and Charlie, there's also a VP Racing flag. If you'll grab the flags too, sorry about that. You also get a checkered flag to take home. All right, one photo for our family at VP Racing. Awesome. Now last test, put the Pirelli caps back on, and once you've done that, you can spray that champagne. So round of applause, your AM podium, Jason Alexandrides, Derek DeBoer, Alon Stodd, Thomas Merrill, and your winners, Charlie Postons and James Clay for BIM World and BMW.
There are the AM class podium finishers celebrating.
To our AM podium finishers.
Hard-earned results.
Last lap moves. Awesome job.
And we'll be moving on to Pro-Am and Silver here shortly.
Pro-Am category.
Great stories across the board in the various classes. Mentioned it in passing, Zach Anderson back in the series after basically a year sitting out. And gets this chance to jump into the race car once again, this BMW for Auto Technic, teaming up with Austin Smith. Didn't have a great qualifying effort. Austin had a good first stint, and then Zach went on a charge, and we'll be seeing him up on the silver class podium in a little while. And for Austin, how about it? His first GT4 race after the last several years. I shouldn't say first. He did make a couple starts in 2020 at Circuit of the Americas for the NOLA Sport team, but the bulk of his work has been in the TC classes and was third in the TC championship. I believe he went into the season finale with a shot at winning that championship last year, and just came up a little short, third place in points. Really excited to see what he can do in the GT4 ranks. Pro-Am podiums being announced. We'll let you hear the names announced.
And Jason Hart. And taking victory today for the B Sport team in an Aston Martin, let's welcome up Brian Butt and Kenton Cook!
Interesting mix up on this podium. Totally fresh in terms of
awesome job to our Pro-Am podium
making it into the podium in this class.
I love the look on Elias's face.
Yes.
He can't wait to get hold of that trophy. He's like, let me out, let me out. I've been digging so deep for this opportunity.
Well, that's the point I was going to make is, you know, he and Andy Lee, they've been working at it, get this big breakthrough here. Jason Hart's no stranger, but Scott Noble, new to this class, impressive on debut. And then the team we talked about it, needing to capitalize on their momentum, capitalize on their chemistry, and they did just that, Kenton Cook and Brian Putt.
Yeah, really, really cool. Just good battle, and unfortunately for Ian James, looked like he had made a monster move there to get their first win of the year, but some kind of issue. Kenton alluded to it. Maybe he had a cut down tire. Certainly went off the pace there at the end, off the boil.
Hand one there to your co-driver. Or you get both got? All right, perfect.
You don't want to read too much into just the first race of 14 this season.
And spray that champagne.
But for Cook and Putt, I mean, this is exactly what they were hoping for, to come out of the gates with a good result.
He's got some style here.
And no surprise to see NOLA Sport back at the front. I thought maybe it would take a bit for the new tandem to click, but that team is so well sorted. They know these Caymans so well, even though they're stepping to the new Cayman. Still plenty of knowledge that they bring to the table. It's one of the better Porsche Cayman teams you'll find in North America.
Yeah, for Travis and Hart to be so frustrated and come up that little bit short for a couple of years, then get that win last year was brilliant, and great to see Jason Bagg with a new teammate for this year and immediately grabbing a podium run here early in the season.
Those were the podium finishers in Pro-Am. Up next is Silver, and we'll once again, just a moment, turn it over to PA announcer Robbie Montanola to announce our podium in Silver, including the top 2 overall.
All right. In the silver class, our podium finishers in third place for Auto Technic Racing and BMW, Austin Smith and Zach Anderson. Finishing in the second position for Conquest Racing, JMF Motorsports, and a Mercedes AMG, Gavin Sanders and Mackay Stevens. And taking victory today for the RS1 team in a Porsche, let's welcome up Eric Filgaris and Stephen McAleer. Awesome job all around.
3 totally new pairings.
All right, grab the
for
trophies,
2022
and they are heavy, as you saw.
up on the podium in the silver class.
Don't drop it.
Yeah, some stiff competition out there this year, and I think everyone's going to fight really hard to get those big wins. But for these guys, excellent start to their championship campaign, something to build on. We come back tomorrow, do a reset. For some of them, they'll tweak on the race cars a little bit more. I think Kenton Cook, I don't think he could win tomorrow with the car handling the way it was at the end of this race. He didn't have the strongest car, so you know his engineer is going to be working hard on that race car tonight to find a bit of speed.
And trophy time, yes. Not champagne yet, Zach. Don't jump the gun on that.
Now everyone learns so much, but it's a quick turnaround. They're the last race of the day today, relatively early tomorrow, before noon. Tough, especially for those that have struggled with accidents here today. But that's a wrap for our day of action here at Sonoma. Thanks so much to everybody for tuning in. Congratulations to all the podium finishers and class winners. We look forward to seeing you back here at Sonoma Raceway tomorrow.